Good morning. I thought since it's Lent, I would talk a little bit about fasting, but I also want to address a problem that we see a lot in our society, and that is that people pick up things on social media and they don't check them. They assume that what's been posted is true and they spread it around, and very often it isn't true. So you might have seen this post on Facebook. It says that Pope Francis said, "Fast from hurting words and say kind words, fast from sadness and be filled with gratitude, fast from anger and be filled with patience," and so on and so on and so on. The problem is, as soon as I read this, I thought, Pope Francis can't possibly understand fasting that badly, can he? And I did some looking, and of course, he never said any of the things in the post. So when you receive something and it says, this is what Pope Francis says, or this is what so-and-so says, it's worth just having a quick check and seeing, is this something that so-and-so really did say? Especially if you're wanting to spread it around. I mean, before you share something, it's worth checking that it comes from the person that it says that it says it does. So why do I say this post misunderstands fasting? Well, let's take the first one. Fast from hurting words and say kind words. Well, we should stop using hurting words and say kind words. That's absolutely true. But that's because hurting words are a sin. It's not that we fast from them for 40 days. We ought to be trying not to use them 365 and a quarter days of the year. And when it says fast from sadness and be filled with gratitude, I think it's actually there's even more of a problem with the second one. Because sadness is sometimes a very appropriate and important response to what's going on in our lives, right? Some things deserve the response of sadness. Being sad that one of your friends or family has died, for example, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Getting stuck in that sadness and being unable to move on from it, that can be a problem, but that's usually a problem that needs some help, some counseling to move on from. But being sad that your friends or family have died, and even returning to that sadness sometimes, my own brother died about 5 years ago, and it still occasionally strikes me how sad it is that he has died. So sadness is not something to give up. It's something that's a normal part of life. Indeed, I would say, this is a little side, but sadness is really the flip side very often of love. We're sad because sad appropriately because the people that we have loved, we've lost them. They've either gone away or they've died. So sadness is a good reaction to certain situations. And similarly, though Christians are not always clear about this, anger is a perfectly fine reaction to certain situations. It's perfectly fine, for example, to be very angry at injustice. Fast from pressures and be prayerful. Well, all of us have pressures on us. We can't stop there being pressures on us. So fasting in the Christian tradition means giving up something not because it's bad, but because it's good. We give up not the bad things in our lives, those things we should be trying to give up all the time. In Lent, we try to give up even something that is a good thing in our lives, but which perhaps we rely on a little too much. Perhaps there's a food that we like that we end up eating a little more than we should. Perhaps we use our phones a little bit more than we should, and they dominate our lives in certain ways. Perhaps we're stuck on social media longer than we should be, though it's perfectly fine to be stuck on the St. Michael's Seminary YouTube channel. Watch the videos on our channel. So fasting, you give up something that is perfectly good in itself. And we do that not because we want to eliminate these things from our lives altogether, but because we want to control them. We want to gain some discipline and self-control and learn to use the good things in our lives in moderation, not excessively, not in ways where our possessions become things that possess us, or food becomes something that dominates us, drink becomes something that dominates us. We can allow things to dominate us, and Lent gives us a chance to say, well, these perfectly good things need to be done in moderation, kept in some kind of good order. So I really strongly suggest that if you look at the list that is sent round on that as coming from from Pope Francis, think about it. Think about the things on that list that are genuinely bad and give those up all the time. And the other things, I actually think many of them are good things that need sometimes we need help to shift or change, right? If you're completely overcome with worries, perhaps you could do something about that, for example. But the line about worries in the post is fast from worries and have trust in God. Well, we could all do with trusting God more, that's true. But you can't just have trust in God as if that one day you didn't have it and the next day you wake up with it. That isn't how it works. You can pray to God to give you more trust in your life, and you can act from the trust that you wish you had and gradually develop a bit more trust. That's certainly true. But you can't suddenly flick a switch and suddenly stop worrying. Flick a switch and suddenly start trusting God in everything that you need. So, the moral of the story, I suppose, first of all, is be careful. When things get sent around on the internet, make sure they come from a reputable source. Make sure they come really from the people that they say they come from. In this case, there's no question, Pope Francis didn't say any of these things. And actually, the people who made it probably know that because they post it as initially, the people who made the post initially, they post it as an image, so it's actually quite hard to search. You have to type out for yourself some of the bits of text from the image to search it. So use your head. But secondly, fast. And by fast, I mean really give something up that you like a bit more than you should. You don't necessarily have to give it up all Lent. Apart from anything else, Lent, if you count the Sundays, is 46 days. So it's only the 40 days that are not Sundays that are the 40 days of Lent. So if you find you want to have a rest from your fasting on a Sunday, do that. But pick something that you can stick with through the whole of Lent and give it up. Give something good up that you like a little more than you should. Amen.